This meeting is being live streamed. Well,
and we're live on your YouTube
hey,
channel. That's a replay.
We're live.
Okay. How you doing, Hebsy?
So now we're live. Good, buddy. Live. What's going on? Merry Christmas.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, happy holidays.
You can officially. I think you can officially start saying Merry Christmas without worrying about someone going, "Oh, Christmas." Like, this is good. It's the day before Christmas. It's the day of Christmas Eve. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you so much. Quick fun story before we start is that my daughter was going through her Instagram people she follows. She follows a bunch of people on YouTube and Snapchat and all these different things. And this guy's doing this thing, and I can see her phone because I'm sitting beside her. And I look over at her phone, and I say to her these exact words. I say, "You know, I co-host a show with that guy's father, right?" And she looks at me, and she looks like her, like she's almost 18, but she's like, and I'm like, "Yeah." I go, "That's Dean Hebsher." I said, "I co-host a show with his dad, Mark." And he goes, "You know Dean Hebsher?" And I said, "Well, I know him a little bit."
This is your son or your daughter?
No, my daughter, Michelle. Michelle loves your son's digital output, his stuff. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
She's very impressed. I know Dean Hebsher's father. So from now on, I'm introducing you as Dean Hebsher's father.
Well, listen to this. And that's very nice of you too. That's when you know that, you're on your way out to pasture. Is when, for the longest time was like, Dean was like, "Oh, Mark Hebsher's your father." And now it's like, "Oh, Dean Hebsher's your son." Right. That's great. I'm going to tell him that. As a matter of fact, he'll get a real kick out of that. And that's right in his wheelhouse. It's, for some reason, Dean's biggest fans are, teenage girls. They love his humor. They love his shtick. He's got a good smile. He's funny. Ask Michelle if she's seen his routine on bar mitzvahs.
I will.
Where he explains to the uninitiated about bar mitzvahs and what they are, and bat mitzvahs, and just how awkward it is when you're 13 years old, and it's quite funny.
I will, my friend. I'm going to tweet a link at you now. So in a moment, you'll have to retweet this.
Okay, sounds good.
You can chat up the red carpet crowd in the meantime.
Oh, good. That's excellent. Can you do me a favor when you're done with that?
Yes.
Can you send the link to our buddy Scott so he can get it to Nate so that Nate can join us?
It's the same link as last week.
No, I know, but Nate doesn't have it though, or got rid of it, or whatever.
He deletes his emails. Okay, I will do that.
Okay. So I just got the message from Scott there. So we'll get Nate on board.
Okay.
And I'm going to tweet out your link. By the way,
give me like 20 seconds.
By the way, to everyone, red carpet folks, this is the Red Carpet Show on YouTube, exclusively on YouTube, prior to the actual podcast. I think the reason we started this was we hoped to sell it, but nobody wanted to buy the red carpet. So it's just sort of, we're just getting ready. It's like you're watching the sausage being made as we line up the show today. And I can give you a little bit of a preview. Our guest is Rob, let me get this right, Baker of the...
Never heard of him.
Come on, it's Rob Baker of the Tragically Hip. Who am I kidding? This is big. This is a big get here. And for the new format of the show, this is what you want. You want some people who've never seen the show before, and they're tuned in because they're hip fans, they're Rob Baker fans. Well, you're going to get more than you bargained for here. You're going to get good stuff. And
you need to retweet that link before we forget.
I'm going to do it right now. I'm retweeting.
So I'll say hello, Gordon Enright. Hello to you, Mike Kerr. Good morning.
Hello, Gordon.
He calls us gentlemen. I like that. Moose Grumpy says good morning. Todd Taylor is here. Good morning, Hebsy and Mike. Merry Christmas and all the best to you and yours. Enjoy. And then, of course, happy day after Festivus. That's Canada Kev, I believe. So, the crowd is showing up. And, a lot of sports to talk about, but we of course, there's always NFL. I don't think anything stops the NFL. This is a league that will, keep going no matter what happens with Omicron.
Yeah, if you like watching fourth string quarterbacks play, I mean, there's like 3-4 weeks in a row where you go, who is this guy? Who is this guy wearing, the Washington football team? So like, who is this guy? And when you've got experts that have never heard of guys, right? And let's face it, fans are paying good money, not just in football, but in all these pro sports, you're paying good money to see the best in the game. And a lot of times you're not seeing the best in the game. The games, should they be canceled? I mean, should there be, I don't know, should you expect to see some of the stars that are playing? Or, does the team have a responsibility to the league to say, look, I'm sorry, the superstars are out there. It's all COVID related. We're going to have to cancel the game because you folks don't want to watch a bunch of scrubbinis play, do you?
Hey, you want to start the real show? I sent Scott that link, just an FYI. But
all right,
you
very
ready?
exciting. Let's do the show. Yeah, let's go. Are we okay? Is our internet connection okay?
Well, mine is. Yours is good enough. It's good enough.
I mean, I'm on like Bell 5 here.
Does
that make any difference?
No, Bell 5's good. I'm also on Bell 5. It's good. I don't know. It's fine. I'm ready to rock and roll, my brother. Listen for those Los Lobos licks. Here we go, buddy.
All right. Live from Toronto, it's Hebsy on Sports, episode number 264. Hi there, sports fans. I'm your host, Mark Hebscher. Welcome to my podcast. I'm here in the Little Italy studio in downtown Toronto. My co-host, Toronto Mike, is manning the mothership in New Toronto and drinking. What are you drinking there, by the way?
It's just black coffee from the French press. Cheers to you.
I don't know. I don't believe that for a second. Not for a second. I think you got some serious stuff going on.
Some Baileys.
All right. If you're new to the show, this is what we do. We get stinking drunk and stoned every Friday morning and we talk sports. No, I'm just kidding. Well, partly true. That we got a special Christmas show for you today. If you're joining the show for the first time, a special Christmas show. Not your average Christmas show. Special Christmas show. Christmas Eve show. As a matter of fact, our guest is lifelong Toronto Maple Leaf fan Rob Baker of the Tragically Hip. He's going to join us in a few minutes from his home in Kingston, Jamaica. Oh, sorry, Kingston, Ontario.
He wishes.
Also on today's show, the National Hockey League is on pause and the Leafs aren't back in action until Monday. Remember the Leafs? Anybody remember the last game they played? Anybody? No. I can't remember the last time they played a game. I don't know. Who did they beat? When was that? 10 days ago? The NBA says full steam ahead despite a number of COVID cases that have ravaged rosters. The Raptors roster ravaged. The NFL juggles its schedule, and it seems to be working out okay. We'll talk about that. The World Junior Hockey Championship gets underway Boxing Day, and a Toronto hockey camp is under investigation because several teenage players have been using fake vaccine exemptions that they purchased online from a BC doctor who is under investigation. What the hell is going on? We'll get to all that, but first, here is my friend, Toronto Mike. All set for Christmas?
There's a couple of very excited kids in this home right now because the big guy shows up tonight, and that's not Rob Baker. That is good old jolly Santa Claus is coming tonight. And, the Tooth Fairy was here last night, so it's been a very busy household lately. It's
right.
Good
Under
times.
normal circumstances, pre-COVID, what would Christmas Eve day be like?
Not much different than it will be. Like the biggest difference is normally like my brothers and my nephews would come over, my sister-in-law, and it would not be that big a deal. But we reined it in a bit. I think it's just my mom will be here, so there'll be 7 of us here tonight. But it's been a little modified, but it's never really that big like you see in the Christmas movies that air all the time, where it's like 100 people. I never went that route, but. Merry Christmas
I have a friend
to
of mine
all the Hebsy on Sports fans who celebrate. I know there's a bunch of them on the live stream, so Merry Christmas to all of y'all.
Season's greetings to you all. It's funny because we go for walks in the neighborhood here in Little Italy, and even like the house. I don't know. There used to be more houses that were lit up. It's like less people are in the spirit, and for good reason. A lot of people aren't going outside. I mean, my neighbors, are isolated. They've got COVID. I know more people in the last week. I've known more people that have contracted COVID than for the previous almost 2 years. This variant is just spreading, and everyone sort of says the same thing. I had a sore throat, a cough, and whatever, and I never considered going to the hospital. And after a few days, it cleared up, and they have to stay isolated for 10 days. One friend of mine said the last 3 days feels good as new, but is only in day 7 of their quarantine.
Right.
So the idea being is I have a friend of mine that actually is invited people over for Christmas and is giving them, I guess, the rapid test as they're at the door. Before you can come in, he went and got boxes. I don't know how he did it, or stole them from people or bought them online. But he's got like 10 or 12 guests, and every one of them has to take the rapid test before they can come into the house. So on the porch.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Results in 15 minutes. My kids all brought home the rapid test. Unbelievable.
Yeah. See, I have not gone for one. I'm more concerned about getting my booster shot, and I'm scheduled to go the 5th of January. But I put my name in a bunch of waiting lists, and I finally got a call from Rexall Drugs right near me at College and Spadina. Right. And beautiful. I'm going in there and I fill out the whole form, the whole deal like that. I get there and just as I roll my sleeve up, and the young lady's very nice, and she swabs my arm. And just before, she says, "Have you had any other shots lately?" And and I said, "Well, I got the seasonal flu shot." She goes, "No, but anything else?" And I went, "No, and then I remembered that 9 days ago, I got my second shingles shot. When you turn 65, you get like the old person's shingles, like the best one. So I got that 9 days ago. So I tell her, and she looks at me and she goes like this, "No, I'm sorry." She goes, "You got to wait 14 days. And I'm like, "Oh, come on." And she goes, "No." I said, "I can't go back into that pool of like, I'll never get an appointment again. Like, you got to help me." I'm like begging her, right? "You got to help me." And she's like, "All right, don't tell anybody this, right? But, call me, and like whatever, like the day that the 14 days are up."
Violated that trust, Hebsy.
Hang on, call me that day, and I'll see if I can squeeze you in, because she says, because a lot of times at the end of the day, people who were supposed to come for their vaccine never showed up, right? For whatever reason, they didn't show. So there's a surplus. So it's like the end of the day. It's like McDonald's isn't going to be throwing out those hot apple pies, are they? No. Come by before we throw them out, and this is sort of the same thing. Like, I'm not taking anybody's spot. So I just thought I'd be upfront about that. I don't want people to go, "Hey, the hell, you're jumping the queue."
Let me get this straight, Hebsy. This nice, kind woman says, "Don't tell anyone," and you just told thousands.
No, she didn't say. She didn't say, "Don't tell anyone." It was sort of like, "Okay, I can help you out here. Special case. You had you made your appointment, whatever else. You unfortunately didn't fall into the proper criteria, on the day of, we'll do it." Something like that, right?
Yeah, Hebsy, last week we had a guest. I call him the Great Nate, the Soap Man. He is joining us again off the top of today's episode.
Right on, yeah. And you know what? Nate, are you there?
I'm here, sorry.
Nate, listen, I'm really sorry I blew you off last week. We had this whole thing for Nate. Nate makes soap and all about his great products and all that. We're talking about a brush with greatness, and you say, "I've got a great story to tell," and I go, "Yeah," and we never got to you. Okay,
that's
so
okay.
I fucked up there. So, but I want to hear the story now, because I said, "Oh, geez, I forgot." Nate's got a great story. So, Nate, what was your brush with greatness?
Okay, so one of the jobs I had was I was working as a bartender for very rich Torontonians in Toronto. And one day my boss calls me up and he says, "Hey, I think I have this gig for this party we're throwing. I don't know this guy's name. I think he's a soccer player, but do you know the player?" I'm not going to say his name because I did sign some documents, but he's very famous.
What?
Yeah, in the GOAT conversation, and currently plays in the Western Conference. I'll give a clue though.
We're talking about a basketball player here.
Yeah, so he is a basketball player. Sorry, he is a basketball player. He did enter.
And you can't give out his name because you signed like an NDA or something.
I mean, I'm sure it's fine, but I don't want him coming for my little.
Come on, Nate. Come on, you got to give up the name.
Okay, rhymes. Last name James. We'll just say that. One of those players.
Last name James.
LeBron
James. Hang on a second. Yeah. LeBron James. All right. So who threw this party?
Well, the person who threw the party for him was uh like Drake.
Drake.
Have you heard of him? Yes, the very famous Toronto rapper. Um, yeah, so obviously I'm like, of course I will work this gig. What are the details? They're like, well, it's an after party. Drake's putting on a show, and then they're going to a bar, and then they're going to an after party at a house somewhere. So the gig is from 3 a.m. to I think it was 8 a.m. or something like that.
Wait, 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. is the
Yeah,
party.
the start time is 3 a.m. How the other half lives.
So were there big tippers there? Like, come on, Drake, LeBron. I mean, did you make some dough?
It was well paid. Yes, it was. So just even getting there, it starts at 3 a.m. It's in like I think Etobicoke. I'm in Etobicoke at 2:30 in the morning, being like, where is this place?
Right.
Is this even real? I turn the corner and I see this like 3-story glass building that you can probably see some space, lit up like a Christmas tree. I'm like, I guess that's it. Yeah, and then everyone was super nice. It was super cool. LeBron introduced himself to all the staff. He shook our hands and made eye contact.
Nice.
It was very surreal because you work for, garden variety rich people, and they don't acknowledge you. But then, one of the most famous athletes says, "Hey, I'm LeBron." But everyone was nice, and they just kind of partied, ate, drank, were merry. It was pretty chill.
3 to 8, 3 a.m. to 8 a.m. So what kind of food? Like, what are you serving? Like a breakfasty thing, or like burgers?
Yeah, it's after bar stuff like poutine and those sorts of things. And then we were serving
poutine.
Yeah, stuff you want to have in the after party.
And how was he? How was Drake? Was Drake a cool guy? Was he a good guy?
Yeah, everyone was super nice. I think everyone was just really hanging out with their friends and super chill, and just having a good time in this private party from 5 a.m. It's just pretty.
I got an important question. Nate, I love this story, but this is a question for Hebsy. Hebsy, if you were invited to a party with Drake and LeBron and who knows who else is there, but they said, okay, this is 3 o'clock to 8 a.m., like 3 to 8 a.m., would you attend that party?
Of course I would. Absolutely. What are you, crazy? I would go for a nap. I'd go for a nap probably about 8 o'clock at night. I'd nap from like 8 until maybe 2 a.m. and then get ready, or, till 1, whatever, for sure. I would be interested in seeing how people are functioning at 7 a.m., having been up for, 24 hours, let's say, with maybe some booze, some drugs, some whatever. I'm interested to see how people are. Like, how do you get to know somebody that's been up for 24 hours and maybe is a little inebriated? That's all.
I'd be like, dear
Nate, that's a great.
I'm sleeping at those hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Nate, that's an awesome story. We're going to sell some of your soap now.
Oh, great! Love to hear.
Yeah, enjoy the rest of the show, and Merry Christmas, my friend.
Thank you.
All right,
thanks.
That's an awesome story.
Nate, another question for you, buddy. Are you a fan of the Tragically Hip? Is this a band you've heard of, you love, you enjoy?
Yeah. I play guitar, so I really do like Rob Baker's guitar playing and his little licks that he throws in on New Orleans is Sinking. I like those licks.
Oh, right on.
Yeah.
Well, Nate, you just opened for Rob Baker. You can tell everybody.
That's right. You're the opening act there. All right, Nate, listen, all the best. That's Nate. That's NateMakesSoap.com. And let me tell you, Nate gave us a beautiful delivery the other day, man. Happy to say I'll never use regular soap again, ever.
Awesome.
His stuff is great. All natural, no animal testing, smells great, fits perfectly in either hand. So like, look at this here. I got, like, this is a Nate Makes Soap. Look at the size of these things, right? It's perfect for your hand. Because the small bars of soap, the regular size ones, they slip out of your hand. They're not cheap like for the human hand. And as you know, when you drop the soap, it's tough to pick it up again. But not this. This is grippable stuff. Very grippable, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I use the Shower Boy fragrance. My girlfriend's been using Perfect Peppermint. She's very impressed. Her skin is very soft. Mine is as well. And if you're in West Toronto, if you're between, let's say, St. Clair, south to King, and from Keele to Bathurst, Nate will deliver for free. And if not, there's a nominal delivery charge. NateMakesSoap.com. And if you use the promo code Hebsy20 at checkout, you get 20% off your first order. Hebsy20 at checkout. NateMakesSoap.com. Thank you, Nate.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas,
to you
Nate.
too.
Hebsy, our next guest needs no introduction. He is the lead guitarist for the Tragically Hip. Ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by Rob Baker.
Rob,
how are you?
Merry Christmas, buddy.
Do you have you got a visual on me?
You got to punch your camera up there. There's a line through the camera, and if you punch that, you put yourself on the camera.
Yeah.
Somewhere
there we
or
go.
left.
Yeah, I got it. I got it to come up at the
Here
bottom.
he is.
There we are.
Wait,
Okay.
wait a minute. That's not Rob. Wait a minute. Oh, it is.
Yeah, that's me. Got a little gray
going,
over this
buddy?
gray.
That's okay. We're all listen, but if I'm not mistaken, you're going to hit 60 next year. Am I right?
That's true in the spring.
There you go, man. 60
blows
is
my
beautiful.
mind.
I mean, I'm going to be 66 next week, and let me tell you something. It's beautiful, man. It's all downhill from there, and I mean downhill in a good way. If you're skiing downhill, it's just it's a coast, baby.
I was just saying to my wife the other day, I remember very well being, 15 years old and looking at people saying, they're 30s. They're in their 30s. Oh my God, they're so old.
You're in Kingston. What is it about like you're born and raised in Kingston? What is it about Kingston that makes you stay there and not move to Toronto or LA or that kind of thing?
I don't know. My roots just go pretty deep here, and I spent a lot of time on the road seeing big cities, lots of other options for places to live. I was never really tempted in all that time. Yeah, I had apartments in Toronto on and off. I lived very briefly in Edmonton for a few months, and but the only places I've really been tempted to live, Vancouver a little bit, but I could never deal with the rain. Burlington, Vermont's a really nice town, but then I'd be living in America. I tried to move my family to Utrecht in the Netherlands. Yeah, I took them there for a week. You're gonna love it. And the rain was coming in sideways for 6.5 of the 7 days. My plan went poof. No, Kingston's just fine.
God.
It was after all the time on the road and in big cities, it always felt good to come back here. So,
a friend of mine, actually, him too, Gare Joyce, we know him. He just retired to Kingston. And I see a lot of people are retiring to Kingston, and I'm realizing that I'm retirement age. We're like, why would people what is it about Kingston where people want to retire there? What does it have to offer?
Yeah, for a long time, Kingston, I don't know if it's still the state, but they used to say that it was the number 2 retirement community in Canada. And I could never figure out why. It's not like we have a Florida winter or something. It's pretty grisly. But I think if you're from Toronto or Montreal, you would look at Kingston and say, wow, I don't have to trade down. I don't have to downsize. I could move to Kingston and continue to live the life I live, big house and lots of cottage country, 20 minutes in the car and you could be on any number of different lakes. It takes me 15 minutes to drive from one corner of the town to the other corner, from the southeast to the northwest or vice versa. So
15 minutes in rush hour traffic?
Yeah, if you pick your roads right. Rush hour traffic in Kingston's a bit of a joke, really. I had to wait at the light for 2 lights.
Are you in the same house that you grew up in? Same neighborhood?
Same neighborhood. Yeah, I walked Earl Street every day of my life. The house I grew up in is probably 8 blocks that way. And the high school I went to is 2 blocks that way, closed now. And, I walked every day, my public school, then my high school, then my university, all within walking distance of where I grew up. So, and every day I said, I got to get out of this town. I can't stand it any longer. And then I bought a house halfway between my public school and my high school.
Your roots really do run deep. Hey, I guess when you were growing up, people might have said, hey, Rob Baker, he's going to be an athlete. I mean, because both your parents were pretty athletic. In fact, your mom was like a spectacular figure skater.
Yeah, she was a U.S. dance champ, and my dad put himself through law school as a skating gigolo for people who were doing their gold and silver tests at the Toronto Figure
Skating
Skating.
gigolo.
Yeah, he would. He was a dancer for hire, and put himself through
Really?
law school doing that. And my mother was the visiting pro from the U.S., the big name pro coming in to teach lessons over the summer at the Toronto Figure Skating Club, and that's how they met. So, yeah, they might have thought I was going to be an athlete until they saw me out there. My brother was you know how families work. My brother was really athletic, a great skater, great hockey player, really great football player. And I just couldn't compete with that. I had to find a different way.
I think that's the case in a lot of families, though, right? Especially if the eldest is, whether it's an athlete or whether an artist or whatever, the next in line is like, can you keep up with your sibling here? And a lot of times you just choose another way. But you did play sports when you were younger, right?
Yeah, I did. I had to. My parents made me go through the figure skating. I had to have the sweater with the badges up and down the arms before I was allowed to play hockey. And I cursed.
Really?
Yeah, I cursed them the whole time. I hated the concept. I hated being out there doing figure eights, and but when I actually started playing hockey, I could skate faster backwards than most of the kids could skate forwards. So I had this great backwards power and a huge ass from all that figure skating. So I just became like I became an impenetrable defenseman. I won in Pee Wee. I won the MVP award. I had 0 goals that year, and I won the MVP award because nobody ever scored when I was on the ice.
Wow.
You were such a great skater.
Yeah. I could just, and it was full body contact. And I was a big brute. Like at Pee Wee age, I was almost my full height and a fraction of my weight, I will say. But really? I was 6 feet tall at Pee Wee. So.
Wow. Were you a bully?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You were?
Yeah, I was a bit of a bully. Yeah. Oh. Up until
I hear that voice. Yeah.
Yeah, like grade 8 was when I stopped after grade 8. But up until then, school was different. Public school was a lot different. So I'd be in a fight every week, mostly with kids older than me. And I got bullied because I was the bigger young kid. So the bigger kids would pick on me. But made me a good fighter. And I got to be a green belt in judo, and that helped. But yeah, it's probably better that things aren't sorted out that way anymore. Maybe.
Did it have anything to do with the fact that your father was the the one judge in town, and like anybody that ever ran afoul of the law would be in front of Judge Baker, and it's like, oh, Judge Baker's kid over there, eh? Let's beat the shit out of him. Okay, I can only imagine, like, for example, someone saying, "Hey, you put my dad behind bars, motherfucker," or something like that. Like, hey, it wasn't me who did it. Dad's probably a bad guy.
I did get that from time to time. I'd be at someone's party and they'd say, "Hey, my parents heard you were here. They want to talk to you." And I go up and get berated by parents because they'd put someone in jail or taken someone's license away or whatever. So whatever, that stuff happens. I still get stopped on a regular basis by people who say, "I was up in front of your dad. He gave me a square shake," or he did something creative. Guy on his second drunk driving charge, and the old man said, "You're a driver for your living?" And he said, "Yep." And the old man said, "Well, I'm supposed to take your license away for 2 years at this point, based on the, the case, the facts of the case." He said, "I'm going to give you suspend your license for 2 years, but only from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m.
That's fair.
Let the guy keep his job. And yeah, the guy came up to me and he had tears in his eyes. This was maybe 5 or 6 years ago at a hockey game, and telling me that it turned his life around, made a big difference. So yeah, I still get it.
That's a great story, man. I like that. That must make you feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I live in a small town.
Did you used to discuss those things? Sorry.
That's why I live in a small town.
Those things around the dinner table?
Nah, my dad didn't really talk shop. Dinner table. You mean the TV? We sat around the TV and had dinner. The TV was
Is
on.
that right? Yeah.
TV was on 24/7 in our house. They might mute it for something, but the picture never went off. The only time it ever went off, they'd have another TV lined up with the guys there to put it in, and they'd turn it off, quickly pull it out, put the new one in, turn it on, and it was on until the screen burned out.
Really? And what show? Like just a particular channel, or just the news every
No,
night? I know Hockey Night in Canada on Saturdays for sure, right?
Of course. Yeah, of course. We had three channels from upstate New York and one channel from Canada at the time. So it was a little different time.
Right. So I got to believe Kingston is like the line of demarcation between Toronto and Montreal when it comes to a number of things, but certainly the rivalry between the Habs and the Leafs. You were a Leaf fan. What were there more like? What was the ratio Leaf fans to Habs fans when you were growing up?
More Leaf fans, but not by a big margin. Maybe 60-40. The thing that was strange in Kingston is the number of Boston fans. Extraordinary.
Well, Downey was a Boston fan, right?
He was, because Harry Sinden was his godfather. Harry Sinden was Gord, and Gord's little brother, Pat. He was their godfather. And there were players that came from Kingston, like Wayne Cashman.
Right.
That ended up in Boston. And then later on, Kenny Linsman and Gillis had a stint with Boston. So there's that connection, that Kingston connection. Either the kid was from Kingston or played junior in Kingston and then became a Bruin, and you would follow him along, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but your team was the Leafs, and your favorite player was Dave Keon. Now, what was all that about? Dave Keon was a saint in the Baker household, right?
That is absolutely true. It's alleged that my first words were Keon and Ali. So, it would have actually been Keon and Clay, I'm sure. But
that's right. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah, your dad would have known about Cassius Clay before he.
Yeah, I would have been 5 when the Leafs won the Stanley Cup the last time, and I have some memory of it. But I certainly grew up revering Dave Keon and marveling at his sideburns. Thought that was pretty sporting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that. Yeah, hard. Because that was around a time where you go, whoa, Davey. If you look at the pictures now, you go, man, David Keon was like a fashion plate.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't that many years removed from the brush cut, when he won the Lady Byng or whatever.
Yeah.
Lady Byng.
Jim Dory was a Kingston guy. Jim Dory was a Kingston guy. And he'd be rocking.
So those
he'd have the fur coat, and he'd have the hair kind of flow in behind him. It's a pretty good time.
So you were a rink rat. You were a junior hockey rink rat, weren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I loved it. We Kingston Canadians at the time.
Those were some good teams. Tony McKegney.
Yeah.
Yeah, McKegney. Who else? Mike Crombeen. The Crombeen brothers were on that team. Those teams too, right?
Yeah.
Those were Kenny Linsman.
Certainly Kenny Linsman.
Oh man, he was vicious.
Yeah, he's vicious in real estate now. We still see him from time to time. I saw him a couple of years ago. We played a benefit show for the United Way in Kingston maybe 2 years ago, just before the summer before all this started up. And he was out, had a great sit down chat with him. Super guy.
I think I was in New Hampshire. We went and saw Los Lobos a few years ago on the coast. Somebody told me that Kenny Linsman's place is near Dan Brown, the author's place. And he was saying, I think Kenny Linsman's in there. Apparently a lot of ex-Philadelphia Flyers, are in this sort of little enclave, I guess. And he's pointing out, there's Bobby Clark's got a place there, Linsman. And he said to him that he does real estate, and he's got quite the reputation down there. And
he's a surfer
in New Hampshire.
He surfs every day. He does. He surfs every day. I saw him the night Obama got elected the second time, and there was a hurricane happening. And I said, all right, did you get out surfing in this? And he said, oh, yeah. I said, you're not serious. And he said, oh, hurricanes are actually the best time to surf. I was like, you know, he played like he was a
Why
little
does that-
crazy, and I guess he's carried that over. He's a hardcore surfer. Someone will call him up and say the surf's breaking in Thailand, and he's on a plane.
Wow.
Wow, good for him. As long as he enjoys it, man, and he can, and he has the means to do it. Good on him. Good on him.
Absolutely.
So I'm on the subway a couple of years ago, and I'm looking, and there's a Heritage Toronto thing, and I'm looking, and I'm saying, that's Rob's grandfather. That's Rob Baker's grandfather there. And I'm not sure how many people knew about this or whatever, but I found it fascinating that, I mean, you're from a very important family. Is that the right now? Influential family. Your grandfather co-founded the Canadian National Institute for the Blind.
Yes, he did. Yeah, came back. He was a Queen's graduate in 1914 and signed up for the big adventure, and came back a year later without any eyes, and was told, well, you can weave baskets, you can do chair caning, or maybe if you train, you can be a telephone operator. But that was about it. That was all that was open to him. So he said, as an engineer, that doesn't seem right to me. So he formed with some friends, and they started working on the issue.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was an interesting man. I have good memories of him. I was 6 when he died, but I remember him very well.
What was it about him that struck you?
He had a big presence, really big presence. He was a tall, thin man, extremely strong. And he was the guy responsible for the white cane, which used to be omnipresent for blind people, but he refused to use one. He didn't want anyone to know he was blind. He wanted to make his way through the world without people knowing. So he always knew how much money he had in his wallet so that he could go to the grocery store and pay for his groceries, and he could count the money out, and he knew the order the money was in. And he was just a fascinating guy. Always knew what time of day it was. He knew intuitively what direction he was faced and what time of day it was by where the sun was hitting him. Little things that we don't think about, little, sensory things that just get brushed aside for us because we look at our watch. It's like, when you can look something up on Google, you stop using your memory, right?
Yeah, for sure. You just to even be able to say, when someone says, "Oh, I'm going to Google this," I say, "Remember the day when you would have to crack a book and look stuff up like that?"
Or you'd sit and think about it and reason it out.
Oh. So I'm wondering if, you have a wonderful ear for music. I'm going to assume that your dad and siblings probably had a pretty good ear as well, because the house they grew up in would have been, you had to listen, if their father didn't have sight.
Yeah.
So I'm going to assume that the Bakers are good listeners.
My dad was a good listener. Yeah, he would say that he would come home when he was a kid. The house was always dark. They never bothered to turn the lights on, really, unless there was a specific reason you were going to sit down and read. But they would listen to the radio with the lights out. And later on, my dad got the reputation as being the sleeping judge because he'd tip his head back and close his eyes. And everyone thought he was out cold, but he just, he said, you can tell more by listening than by looking. And particularly if you're listening for a tell in someone, if they're lying, he said, you can tell if someone's telling the truth by listening to their voice. People can learn to cover it up through their actions and how they address you. But if you actually just close your eyes and listen to their voice, he said, you can tell. That was his.
So that's the real tell. The real tell is listening to them lie and catching that, as opposed to trying to watch them and see what their mannerisms are.
Yeah, that's what he felt.
Fascinating. You played lacrosse with Doug Gilmore. Who was a better lacrosse player?
Yeah, that'd be Doug. Like I said, I was a big galoot out there. So Doug was he was the smallest guy on the floor. It was peewee age. I think we won the All Ontario tournament in Aurelia. Doug was the smallest guy on the floor, and everyone was scared of him. He had played with such intensity. He did everything he did with such intensity.
You think that's why they call him Killer?
Yeah. I think they used to invite him to play in these, you'd get two insurance agents and an NHL player and put them on these teams and have little tournaments. But
Right.
I don't think he has a first or second gear. He just gets on, he goes third gear immediately.
Yeah.
So
that motor's always running at high speed.
yeah, I think they stopped inviting him to those tournaments.
Yeah. Hey, I think it was a Juno. I think I was at a Juno's one a few years ago. Jim Cuddy was coaching, and Rick Vive is playing, and he lets a slap shot go from the top of the circle against. I don't even know who the goalie was. Maybe a guy from Sam Roberts' band. I don't know. I forget now. And Vive can still shoot them, eh? And I'm telling you, man, everybody on the bench is like, oh, geez, Rick, don't be doing that, because you get into a mode where if you're competitive, right, you're like, okay,
Yeah.
you're not thinking, these are just amateurs or just musicians. You're doing what you got to do. And also you've got an ego. I can still shoot the puck. And Vive is letting these 40-footers go at the goalie's head.
Yeah, instinct takes over.
Yeah. So who would have been better at their job in their prime, Doug Gilmour or David Gilmour?
Well, that's an interesting question. Dave was the one that everyone was banking on. He was
yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
He was an up and comer. People really thought that he was going to set the NHL on fire. And sometimes adversity makes you better. Everyone seemed to be behind Dave. No one believed in Doug. He was too small, wasn't going to make it. And he just hunkered down. He was relentless. And it comes down to that attitude more than anything, I think. So.
Yeah. I got to believe that Dave's success, made Doug the player that he was. He wanted to be as good. He wanted to keep up with his brother. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
And it was hard.
And what about
big shoes to fill? So he had to work really hard to do it. And all that hard work does pay off.
When you were a kid, did you play air guitar like most of us? And if so, who did you mimic?
Of course, they played air.
For me, it was Robert Fripp. For me, I don't know what it was. I tried to mimic, 21st century schizoid man, like that really dirty, with a tennis racket on my bed. What about you?
Yeah, there were lots of them. It started early with, you name it, anything. I'd sit with my sister's acoustic guitar and pretend I was Bob Dylan. But later on, when I was really full on into it, it was like Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin.
Ooh, yeah.
I remember my mother seeing me on the floor. I was air drumming, playing guitar, bass, and keyboards all at the same time. And she thought I was having a seizure on the floor. Highway Star blaring.
Oh, yeah. Highway Star. What a great tune. And I know, because you and I have discussed this before, that, and I knew, because when you guys started playing, you played a lot of Stones, and I loved the Stones. I loved everything about them. Loved all their guitarists, but you in particular, Mick Taylor, did it for you. Well, and I love Mick Taylor stuff. What was it about? And especially on like Can't You Hear Me Knocking, or what's that other one? What's that early one that he was on? Fabulous song. Anyway, just I don't know. What was it about him?
I was probably just at the right age, ready to receive. I'd been playing guitar for maybe a year and had a bunch of chords, and I was interested in the whole lead guitar thing. And he just had such a sweet, melodic, fluid style. He just made it all sound so easy. And an instantly identifiable signature, which most guitarists will never have. You think Carlos Santana, I can name that guitar in one note. That's right. Carlos Santana. I always felt he just had this very unique voice. He didn't sound like anyone else, and that fired me up. I remember with the song it's the moment when I put the tennis racket down. Not that I played. I mean, I did play tennis, but it was more for air guitar for me. But the song was it was "Dance Little Sister" by the Stones.
Oh, great song.
And all the way through it, there's this guitar churning away in the background.
Yeah.
It's like there's lead guitar from the opening note of the song to the final note of the song. There's lead guitar playing. And I was just like,
yeah,
and way down in the weeds.
He does a solo in the middle of it there, right?
Yeah. It turns up in the middle for a little solo, but the rest of the time he's playing solo the whole song. And I just have the speakers on either side. One speaker on either side of my head trying to hear every note. And I just said, yeah, that's it. No more air guitar. I got to hunker down and get real here.
That is very cool. Did you ever sing? I don't think I ever saw you with a microphone near you singing in any song. Was that ever a possibility?
Yeah, I sang a couple of backups here and there.
Did you? On what songs now? I
like Cemetery Side Road, really early stuff. They did everything they could to keep me away from a microphone. Loose Cannon.
I don't know why you've got such a fantastic baritone voice. I mean, I really think, now that I think of it, you could have used that low register there, I mean, not like Sha Na Na, but you know what I mean?
Like Tom Wilson from Tom Wilson's got a voice like that.
You think I didn't tell them this, Hebs? Of course. I sang with Strippers Union on my own stuff. They get a couple tunes on every record. Make sure I sing a few. Good. Everyone's a singer, aren't they? No one plays guitar in the shower. We all sing.
That's true. I know that, and I also know that you're the type of guy, you're like me, that anytime there was ever a party from the time you were a kid, you wanted control of the music. You wanted to be the one to select what songs and in what order. I remember, especially on Halloween, it was like, stay away from the stereo. I'm choosing all the music. I'd have mixtapes done and stuff like that. And now you're actually a DJ, and I've heard this show that you do, Front of the Bus, which is really cool. And you turned me on to Jason Isbell. So do you enjoy doing this jockey thing?
It is. I would prefer to go into the station and actually sit and do it. I think I would enjoy that more. Call in and old school.
Like actually pull the records out, you mean? Like pull out the album and say, okay, now we're going to play something? Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of my fantasy when I was a kid. Before I even wanted to be in a band, I wanted to be a DJ because I really thought, they decide what the hits are.
Well, that's what I did. I was a DJ for a country music station, right? I didn't really like country music, but I learned to appreciate it. But it was great. You picked out the music you're going to play. Some stuff you had to play that was on the top 30 or whatever. They had to play in rotation. But the other stuff, you were kind of like, go ahead and play whatever you want. I love that. The freedom of it. You don't have that?
I have the freedom to play with whatever I want, and I do. I'll play, I can play Artie Shaw back to back with Public Image if I want, it's whatever I want to do. Whatever I want to do. As I just try and have a reason to do it. So I got to thread it all together in my mind. But it's been a lot of fun. I'm enjoying doing it. It's not a big thing. I'm doing like 8 or 10 episodes a year. But it's good. Keeps me busy, and it keeps my ear to the ground for new music and new things to find. I just spent 2 full days going through critics' lists of the top 20 tracks of their top 100 songs of the year, top 100 albums. And,
right. Well, you know what you need to do? What you need to do is, my friend Toronto Mike here has a show where people come and kick out the jams. They get to actually, talk about their favorite songs and, why they chose them and the artists and all that. And I don't know if you know this, but Dave Hodge is a music nut. And every year I get to pick out like my 10 favorite. Dave picks out 100 new songs every year. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to a festival in the Dominican Republic with Dave. We went down to the John Prine Fest. And
wow, that must have been awesome.
Emmylou Harris was playing at it, and Lucinda Williams, and lots of great artists. Steve Earle.
I love those artists. Satellite Radio. There's one of the great songs of all time.
To be
Steve
there,
Earle's,
but wasn't. Yeah, it was quite amazing. And he is, I met him, I was on tour with Justin Rutledge, just doing a few duo shows with him. And he said, do you mind if we drop in on a friend? And I said, no, not at all. We dropped in. It was Dave Hodge. I was
Right
like,
on.
I know Dave. He used to come to our shows, come hang out in the dressing room. So,
Well, we'll have to, Mike, you'll have to get on Mike's show, the Kick Out the Jams, because I think everyone is interested in someone else's tastes in music. And like when you said Artie Shaw and Public Enemy, like,
why not?
Public Image.
Or Public Enemy.
Or Public Enemy. In fact, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, when I kicked out the Jams, I played a Frank Zappa song that nobody had ever heard before, Peaches and Regalia. People were like, what's this? I go, well, that's my choice. It's one of my songs. Well, I know you have. One more. Is it true that you used to check into hotels under the name Dave Grohl?
No, not true, but there is a Dave Grohl story. I have a whole list of hundreds of hotel names, but I was Saul Good for a long time.
That's what it was. Okay, so listen to this. So Gord Downey's surgeon. I can't think of the doc's name now.
DJ Cook. DJ Cook was the surgeon in Kingston.
No, this was the one in Toronto at Sunny.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
James Perry.
Yeah.
Dr. James Perry. So he said, he says, could you ask Rob what his usual alias was when checking into hotels? So I said, I think I know that one. It's Good. I think it's like Mr. Good, something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, it's all good. But we had
it's all
tours.
Good.
We'd have tours where we're all doctors. Dr. Pepper, Dr. Scholl, Dr. Ballard. I was Dr. Bombay. Yeah.
That's
we'd have
great.
tours where we were all French names.
Oh,
my
God.
I was Gaston Lachaise. Whatever.
Gaston Lachaise. Didn't he play for the Quebec Nordique, Gaston Lachaise?
I don't. It's all fun. It's just like a buskin. But the Dave Grohl one is, I was sitting in a hotel in Toronto waiting to go to a show at Massey Hall, and a girl came up to me and she said, I can't believe you're here. Oh my God, you're in my favorite band. I love you guys so much. Would you sign something for me? And I started to sign. And just as I'm putting pen to paper, she said, you are Dave Grohl. And I kind of looked up at her and I said, yes, I am. Dave Grohl. There you go.
There you go.
I didn't want
poor
to
woman has got, I met Dave. That's a good story, man. That's an excellent story. So I don't know if you're aware of this, Rob. We had a little contest here. This is sort of a new format for the show and all that. And I thought, oh man, if I can get the hip fans on board, this is be fabulous. And I know that you're a big sports fan and all that. And I still want to talk about soccer with you because it's the most exciting thing in this country now is Canadian men's and women's soccer is so exciting.
Who saw that?
But
coming?
Anyway, what you saw it coming with the women?
No,
you knew about the women.
Who saw it coming that we'd be talking about men's soccer in Canada? Did anyone see that coming? It's unbelievable.
Well, no. Yeah, it's true. I'm sure. Listen, I think when you were on stage playing, people were going, I bet you he really is not a guitar player. He's a soccer fan, man. He sits and watches soccer. There's talks about the 3-4-3 formation and stuff like that. Well, we may as well talk about it now because there's a game in January in Hamilton. It's Canada, USA. And I think if we win that, we're like even that much closer to actually being in the World Cup. You're a big supporter of women's sports, especially. I know that you were at Jana Hefford's big ceremony. You and the boys were there last month in Kingston. Yeah. What is it about like getting behind women's sports, which you guys, a lot of you, you personally in the group for many years now, it's been, I'm going to say 3 decades where you guys were, have always been supportive of women's sports. Why is that?
Good question. Fair play, giving people a chance. My son was involved in soccer and hockey, and I was involved with him on a coaching level in the very early days. And it all seemed kind of unfair to me. I didn't like the culture of it all. There were so many things that seemed wrong about stuff with guys, hockey, young guys, how political it was and how much, I don't know, how much money goes into it. It was frustrating. And I think we all just thought, how come the gals don't get a fair crack at this? And so we sponsored a team in Kingston quite early on, probably starting in, I think, 91 maybe. And sponsored them for many years, and lots of good players came up through that organization, Jana. So it's just fair play, giving people a crack.
Right,
as a coach coaching boys teams, peewee hockey teams, we'd inevitably have one or two girls on our team, and they weren't necessarily the best players. They always took instruction so much better. They did what they were asked to do. Like, you're going to be the defenseman, and this is what you're going to do. And they would listen to the coach. The guys would, like, the puck would come to them. They'd just lose their mind. Game plan out the window. I'm going to score. I'm going to be a hero.
Right.
It's just.
Yeah, I remember when I coached a team, my son's team in Dundas, Ontario, and there were 3 girls who registered for hockey. And this is boys hockey. And at the draft, all the other coaches and everyone were saying, oh, these girls, they're not going to be very good. They're going to be the last draft picks. And I thought, this is house league hockey. And what I did with my first 3 picks, I picked the 3 girls in the first 3 rounds. And the guys were, are you out of your mind? You're never going to win. And I'm like, is that what it's about? Like winning? So I drafted all 3 girls, put them on my team, right? Introduced them early on. And by the end of the year, they were, as good as, and some of them were even better than the boys. But I just couldn't stand to sort of, right from the very beginning, say, oh, the girls have to play. We have to let them play. I just thought that was completely wrong. And you know what? The girls had a good time.
Brutal.
And you're right. They listen. They listen to instructions.
Yeah.
They're very deliberate that way at that age, especially. And boys, forget it, in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. Coaching teams, and you'd see a player who's like, oh, that kid can, best skater on the ice, best shot on the ice, best stick handler on the ice.
Right.
And then you put him on a team, he never passes the puck. He's the worst guy on your team. He may have the most skill of anyone on your team, but he's the worst thing for your team. The player that listens to the coach and comes to practice and works at it, they're the best player on your team.
That's right. And they probably have a better shot at going further in hockey because they can be team players and they can take instruction and execute after learning things, and the other kids maybe don't. I don't want to keep you forever here, Rob, but this contest that we had asked folks on social media to present their best question to be asked of you. So like hundreds and hundreds, and I'm sure you can imagine some of the questions. Many of them are very similar. And the judges labored over this decision, Rob, for hours because of all the good questions. Who are we going to pick, right? For hours. In the end, our winner of a red vinyl copy of the remastered Road Apples record and a signed copy of my book, The Greatest Athlete You've Never Heard of, endorsed by Rob Baker.
Great
Thank
book.
you. Who read my manuscript. Thank you, Rob, for that. Our winner is Jason Baudin. He's from somewhere in Canada. I'm not sure. Jason, get in touch with us, with me or Mike. You'll get the HIP and Hebsy prize package. And here's his question to you, Rob. And I love this question. What are your favorite riffs from your Tragically Hip songs? What's your all-time number 1 non-hip riff? And could you give us a Christmas gift by playing maybe a few of those riffs if there's a guitar lying around nearby? Three-part question.
Okay. Well, favorite riff. That's a tough one. Can't You Hear Me Knocking, which you mentioned earlier, and Bitch by the Rolling Stones. Those two.
Oh, yeah. Sticky Fingers.
Two
Such
guitar
a good
riffs.
album.
Yeah. Bitch is the unusual 4-bar riff. You just no one does that, right? It's a 4-bar long riff. Riffs are usually a bar, maybe 2. Yeah, that's an extraordinary one. Of our tunes, I don't know. I don't even.
Does it depend which guitar you're holding?
Yeah, sometimes. Different songs call for different things, and you just try and be open to it and let the song take you where it wants to go rather than the other way around. If you're paying attention when you're writing the song, it'll say, this is a Telecaster song. Or no, you need a different type of pickup on this song, or this song needs to be played through a Marshall amp, not a Fender amp. They tell you these things if you listen to the language, if you become adept at it. But there are lots of hip tunes that New Orleans is Sinking is such a simple, easy riff that just sort of appeared out of nowhere. But
so good.
Poets is one that I always really liked. So
that's beautiful. What was that I heard?
My dog.
And
soccer. People need to come out and say hi at the soccer games.
What do you mean?
I go to all the soccer games.
Like the Canada games, you mean?
Yes.
So you're going to Hamilton in late January?
Yeah, I got my tickets if they'll let us go. But
I shouldn't have a problem outdoors, I would think, right?
No, I wouldn't think so. I'll be there all masked up and wrapped up.
All right, so there you go, folks. So if you're at a Canada men's or women's national game here in Canada, Rob will be there, man. He's a big fan. He's a huge fan. Did we get to part 3 of the question, or that's not going to happen?
I don't have anything around.
Oh, come on. You must have something nearby. We'll wait.
Okay.
It's Christmas. Thank you, buddy. Thanks. This is the best. This is, Mike, is this not great?
It's amazing. Just before Rob leaves the Zoom, give me like 90 seconds with the man.
Okay.
That's my Christmas way.
I got to check and make sure it's even in tune.
You take your time, man. Listen, sports fans, music fans, this is a real treat for us.
Okay.
What do we got? Oh, I like that. That's a nice. Yeah. Can't you hear me knocking? I'll supply the vocals. Mike, give me a bit of Charlie Watts there. Yeah. And we'll do Can't You Hear Me Knocking. First cut on like the best opening cut maybe of any album at all, Rob.
Oh, I don't even remember that.
Yeah.
We didn't even get to the vocals. I love it.
Do it again. Give me that again. I'll get you the vocals. Go ahead. Yeah. That's good.
We're terrible.
Yeah, we're terrible, and that it was unplanned and all that. And thanks for indulging us. That was a lot of fun. Listen, Merry Christmas to you, my friend. How often do you and the other guys get together? That picture was from November 22nd. You guys were all at the Jana Hefford ceremony.
That was the
I know Johnny
time,
lives in Toronto.
That was the first time we had all been together we were together at the Junos, which was the first time we had been together since Gord's death. So yeah, that was the second time with Jana. But I do see the other guys. I saw Paul 2 weeks ago. I saw Gord Sinclair yesterday. My buddy Gord Sinclair. I draw it. I'm in my little art studio.
Did you draw that?
Yeah.
Is that for a new album of his, or like just because you're such a great artist?
I entertain myself doing portraits and paintings, whatever. So yeah.
Nice. Well, you were an art major, right? Yeah. You were an art major. And I got to tell you this story before.
Only because growing up, I knew if you wanted to be in a band, you had to go to art school. Pete Townsend did it. Keith Richards did it. John Lennon did it. Eric Clapton did it. I was like, well, that's how you get in a band.
Makes sense. You know, you did the artwork on Fully Completely, right? That was yours?
No, I was the art director for basically all the albums, but the only one that I actually did the art for was In Violet Light.
Oh, I love that. I love the colors in that. That's a great album. I think that's a really underrated album.
Yeah. I'm glad you think so. I think it might be overrated personally.
Oh, really? Oh, you know what, Rob, this is for another discussion entirely, or we could go on forever. I won't keep you any longer. Merry Christmas to you. Thanks so much for joining us. And I hope to get to see you in person someday, and we can shoot the breeze. Best to Leslie, best to Boris, and
support your national team. Thanks. Come out, support the national team.
There you go. Take care. Could you have a better spokesperson for Canadian sports than Rob Baker? Great to see you, my friend. All the best.
Thank you, Mark.
And Mike, there we go.
Rob came back.
He's still there because you can listen to the rest of the show. Check it all out. Anyway, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool.
No, dude, that was fantastic.
And wow, I'm sorry,
man, I wanted to tell this when Rob was on, but I'll say it now. A few quick notes, because I'm sitting there like, I got so many questions, but of course we only have so little time. But when you asked the question about Doug Gilmour and David Gilmour, my mind thought you were asking, like, is Dave Gilmour as good a hockey player as David Gilmour is with a musician with Pink Floyd? That's the question I thought you were asking. Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
But then I realized how he would have been deep in the middle of the Dave Gilmour, Doug Gilmour being in Kingston thing, which is a very local Kingston thing. But Doug's older brother, Dave, was a spectacular player and like a surefire superstar. But when I'm asking the question, I'm like, David Gilmour, the guitarist, versus Doug Gilmour, the hockey player. But anyway, that's what I meant.
But that's wild because I thought that's what you meant, David Gilmour from Pink Floyd. The other thing is, it would make sense, I think, for also there might be some Bruins fans in Kingston because, of course, Don Cherry is a proud Kingston guy coaching the Bruins. So
it would have come a little bit later. But you're right. Definitely.
And that anecdote about the Rat, I loved the Rat growing up. Kenny Linsman surfing, like. I'm sorry, but that's the best story. Like, there's a hurricane. Kenny Linsman's gonna grab a board and head for the ocean. That's amazing.
I think pretty cool stuff.
And then I was gonna thank, and you're gonna have to. This is what you owe me now, Hebsy, on Christmas Eve here. You got to set up that Kick Out the Jams because I wanted to take a moment to thank Rob for the music. I wanted to just thank him because I wore my T-shirt today, but that is my favorite band of all time.
Yeah, mine too. And we'll talk to Rob again. I think he enjoyed himself here today, and there's a good possibility that maybe he'll accommodate you.
He'll be back next week.
No reason to think why not. He seems like a fucking nice guy, doesn't he? Like he's a regular guy.
Well, he's got to come back and talk about the Canadian men soccer triumphs.
I know he goes to all the games, and he's like, "How come nobody comes over and says hello?" Because they think he's Dave Grohl.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, let's get to some sports here, all right? Some more sports. Toronto Public Health is investigating a local hockey school after 15 teenage players allegedly gained entry into a city rink multiple times using COVID-19 vaccine medical exemptions provided by a BC doctor who is reportedly under investigation for selling such exemptions on a website. Toronto police notified in early November after staff at Westwood Arena raised concerns that players affiliated with All-Star Hockey, a school run by former pro player Jason Ricci and retired 13-year NHL veteran Mike Weaver, were arriving at the rink and using identical vaccine exemptions to get inside for practices and skill development sessions. Quote, "I have contacted my lawyer, and should you choose to continue with your story, you will be personally sued for defamation," Ricci wrote in an email to TSN. "This email will be used for court purposes. Your allegations are not only defamatory, but also malicious and discriminatory." And this from Weaver, who wrote in a text, and I quote, "The story is defamatory, malicious, and completely false," end quote. So it's not known whether Ricci and or Weaver had knowledge of these vaccine exemptions. The suggestion is that they may have. Police are investigating. The exemptions provided by the 15 and 16-year-old players were signed by Dr. Stephen Malthouse, who CBC reports is under investigation by the BC College of Physicians and Surgeons for allegedly writing phony mask and vaccine exemptions offered for sale through a Kelowna-based website. Motherfucker. Mike, can you believe it?
That's bullshit.
Can this guy not be charged with endangering public health or something, this fucking doctor?
He should lose his license.
And are you telling me the parents didn't know about this? sending their unvaccinated kids with these fake documents.
See, we expect
in order
parents
so
to be stupid, but this a doctor. This is unacceptable for a doctor. No, that's a third rail, man. He's touched it.
Right. So here's my question: how many other people are doing this? How many other people are violating COVID protocols, and how many other people are walking around with these fake documents, these phony vaccine exemptions? And by the way, this fucking doctor, phony mask and vaccine exemptions. So he's got the real, the real losers are like, I don't want to have to. Yeah, don't worry, I'll give you here's a little document that says you don't have to wear a mask and you don't have to be vaccinated. I mean, that's just fucking bullshit.
Yep.
This whole vaccination thing too. People lining up, like making people line up for hours in the cold and snow. What the fuck's going on here? Crazy. Meanwhile, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver says we're going to have to learn to live with COVID. And with that in mind, several teams have hit the floor with considerably less talent than normal. With so many star players in COVID protocol, NBA fans are upset that they're paying good money to watch what amounts to a G League game. Imagine buying tickets to the big game, finding out that none of your favorite players will be in action. That's what happened to a buddy of mine, Golden State Warriors in Toronto a couple of weeks ago or a week and a half ago. No Steph Curry, no Andrew Wiggins, no Iguodala. Instead, what do we get? We got Chris Chiozza, who had never started a game before. We had Juan Toscano Anderson, who was starting for only the third time all season. This is what people paid full price for, by the way.
Buyer beware, though. You
things.
pay for that laundry, okay, to borrow a line from Jerry Seinfeld. You're paying to watch those uniforms. There's no guarantee about what bodies are wearing those uniforms.
No, but you'd like to expect, and I mentioned this to you before. Remember, a couple of years ago, I had tickets to see Kawhi Leonard play 4 times. All 4 games, he didn't suit up. Those were load management games. All 4. Like, come on.
Wow, that sucks.
Anyway, the Raptors were almost forced to play in Chicago the other night with like 7 healthy players.
Right.
And then OG Anunoby was going to be the 8th, and they were going to play. They were actually going to play. He actually flew to Chicago for the game, and then mercifully they canceled the game. But 11 out of the 12 scheduled NBA games went off without a hitch last night. Nothing doing today, of course, but Christmas Day is always huge for the NBA with 5 games back starting at noon Eastern until well past midnight. Merry Christmas indeed. The Raptors, who are just 1 game below 500 and a half game out of a playoff spot, get the Cavaliers in Cleveland on Sunday. The Cavs are surprising 19-13 on the season, and they beat the Raptors by a single point at the SBA last month. I was at that game. It was agonizing to lose in the last second to that team. Yeah. So Toronto will be out for revenge. Hopefully the entire squad will be out of COVID protocol and ready to make a midseason push. By the way, an interesting suggestion by Nikki Reyes, one of the TSN broadcasters on Twitter. She said, why not call up WNBA players to replace COVID-stricken NBA players? I mean, if they can let Kyrie Irving fuck around and even consider letting him play without vaccination, if they're that desperate to get big names on the floor, why not WNBA?
Yeah, you need the best player available.
Yeah, I know. Hey,
I can't go with you on that route. I love WNBA as much as you do, and I'm not sure how much.
No, you don't. Don't tell me that. You don't love WNBA. You couldn't name one team.
I'm not.
Besides Kia Nurse, you couldn't name one player.
The Liberty. There's a Liberty, I think.
Yeah. You couldn't name, besides Kia Nurse, you couldn't name one player. So don't get on me, WNBA. Wait till Drake buys a team, a Toronto team, then we'll get on board. Okay.
Sure.
But it's true though. We're not seeing the best possible basketball. The league needs to ensure that all teams play the requisite amount of games with proper rest, which means what they should do at this point, because there have been cancellations. And the Raptors, of course, their last 3 games have been canceled, is they got to get rid of that week where they have the play in to the playoffs. Get rid of that week and make that week available for makeup games at the end of the season.
But you can't change.
You're going to have guys that are just.
Yeah. But you can't change the rules.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. In COVID, yeah, you can. They've done it before. You can do it again.
Hey, Hebsy, I think this is kind of good. Like, okay, so Omicron, super contagious. I think Rob might have got it from us during that Zoom. It's super contagious, but it's apparently fairly mild. You mentioned it's like a flu-ish like symptoms or less or whatever. So maybe just the whole league gets COVID now, 10 days of whatever, and then we can just play because you'll have all those antibodies and we can move on past this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, maybe the NHL did the right thing. They decided to put everything on hold. They took an early rest. There was all kinds of problems, games being postponed left, right, and center. Issues with people crossing borders now. And if you did cross the border and you were positive, you'd have to stay in that, in the States, let's say, for example, for 10 days. Whole deal like that. Anyway, hopefully, fingers crossed, things work out okay that the rest of the NHL and the Leafs can get back into action Monday. The pause ends Monday. The Buds travel to Columbus to play the Blue Jackets. And with the Olympics no longer in play for NHLers, it could be the perfect storm for the Leafs, because I did not want to see Austin Matthews wasting his talent with Team USA in the Olympics. I wanted all of Austin Matthews to be wearing the Toronto Maple Leaf uniform, his best games, nothing playing for USA. So I'm selfish that way. And okay, we're not going to see NHLers. We'll still see good hockey players. And we might not win a gold medal, but hey, let's make sure everyone's safe, and let's make sure we can get through an NHL season at full strength. The Leafs are 2 points back of Tampa atop the Atlantic. Florida's another 2 back. Top 3 in the division get through, right? The Leafs host Pittsburgh next Wednesday and Ottawa next Saturday. As of now, the Scotiabank Arena is at 50% capacity. We're going to see if they're going to be selling food and beer at the games. I don't think so, but you never know with this Ford government. There hasn't been a game there for a while. The Raptors play there on Tuesday. So the Leafs are there Monday. The Raptors are there Tuesday. Will they be selling concessions? Can you eat and drink there? Or do you have to be fully masked, half capacity? It should be very interesting. The World Junior Hockey Championship being contested in Red Deer and Edmonton. Canada beat Russia in a pre-tournament game yesterday. Big deal. Another game was canceled due to COVID. Doesn't seem as if the rest of the schedule is affected for now, but who knows? Canada's first tournament game, Boxing Day at 6:30 against the Czech Republic. For some reason, just not into the World Juniors like I normally would be. In fact, I thought they might be postponed or canceled. But anyway, hopefully everybody stays safe. There's been an NFL game every day of the week for the past week, except for Wednesday, which, by the way, was the worst night of TV sports viewing ever. And consequently, the numbers on this show went way up. Podcast downloads way up because there was nothing on TV. Good. Last night, a huge game with playoff implications. The Tennessee Titans overcame the San Francisco 49ers 2017. They're now 10-5 and atop the AFC South. The Niners, who have been playing very well, are now 8-7 and in danger of missing the playoffs. It's going to be a wild run to the finish in the NFL and totally unpredictable, Mike, because of the number of key players who are out due to COVID. I mean, who wants to see a fourth-string quarterback throw to a guy who hasn't played since high school? Just like the NBA, the NFL fans aren't too happy about paying good money to see a bunch of scrubbies play. Some big games this weekend, including our Buffalo Bills traveling to New England to play the Patriots. Talk about revenge. Josh Allen and the Bills are out for it because they got beat a few weeks ago at the Ralph, or whatever they're calling that stadium in Buffalo these days. A Bills victory will put them in a tie with the Pats at 9-6 atop the AFC East. The AFC North is wide open. Cincy and Baltimore are 8-6. The Steelers 7-6-1. The Browns are 7-7. So Cleveland's at Green Bay tomorrow. The Bengals host the Ravens on Sunday. The Steelers have to contend with the Chiefs in KC. Just about every NFL game this weekend has playoff implications. Gotta love it. And the Blue Jays announced that they will not be seeking to build the new stadium in downtown Toronto, but instead will spend $200 to $250 million to renovate and or retrofit the Rogers Center. Mike, do you think that they can make it more fan-friendly with a $250 million investment?
Well, I can't see why not. What do you think?
What would you do to that? What would you do to it? How would you make it more fan-friendly?
I don't mind it as it is. I know the natural grass is what everybody wants, but that apparently is not on the table. So until they add the grass, I'm kind of disinterested and uninspired by the whole thing. Like, I'm happy to see a Jays game. Put natural grass in there, and now I'm happy. What say you, Hebsy man?
Might not happen. I'd like to see them make it more fan friendly. I don't know. Make the concourse, change the concourse, make more things available. I just don't like the configuration of it. That's just my thing. But anyway, good for them. $250 million should buy you some type of retrofit anyway. Okay, that's it. Merry Christmas, everybody. Episode 264 of Hebsy on Sports is in the books. Thanks so much to our special guest, Rob Baker of the Tragically Hip. Thanks to Toronto Mike for production and inspiration. Thanks to Scott Allen for executive producing this episode. Thanks to NateMakesSoap.com for great soaps, easy to grip soaps. If you drop the soap in the shower, it's easy to pick up. Also, my book, The Greatest Athlete You've Never Heard of, is available for sale. You can get the ebook for like $8.50. You can get the audio book as well, or you can get the regular book. Or if you really want a special treat, contact me and I can get you an autographed copy of the book. All right, and I'll send it off to you, personally autographed. The greatest athlete you've never heard of. If you prefer audiobooks, I narrate my own. audibletrial.com/Hebsy.
Get Rob Baker to narrate your next book.
No, he's got a great voice, doesn't he? audibletrial.com/Hebsy, and you can listen to my book free, a free trial. How about that? Like, come on, that's such a good deal. Anyway, listen, have a Merry Christmas. I won't wish you a Happy New Year because we're on next Friday with another new episode featuring Joe Siddle. We're going to talk baseball. That's next week's show. New Year's Eve day. So have a Merry Christmas, everybody. Thanks for allowing us into your headspace. We'll talk to you next Friday. Until then, so long for now.
This podcast has been produced by TMDS and accelerated by Roam Phone. Roam Phone brings you the most reliable virtual phone service to run your business and protect your home number from unwanted calls. Visit roamphone.ca to get started.
All right, Hebsy, I'm going to turn off the cameras. So farewell, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Thank you.